Hey guys, it's Matt with BleepinJeep.com, and today we're going to learn how to remove and install freeze plugs. Did you know that a freeze plug isn't actually there for that purpose? There's actually holes in the block that are there to remove the sand when they cast the block. They have to remove the sand after they cast it, and that's why there's holes in it. And then they put a plug on there. Back in the day, they used to put alcohol instead of antifreeze in. Whenever that you'd get a hard freeze, those plugs would pop out, and they started calling them freeze plugs. Alright, so before we get started, make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out the website. We've got hats and t-shirts like this one. All kinds of great stuff there on the website, discount codes and lots of videos for you as well. In this video, this is going to be the first time that we are having what I'm going to call BleepinJeep partners. I can't make as many videos as I'd like for you guys, but I'd like to bring in some partners to help me out, and that's what we're going to do here. So if you're interested, just get in contact with me and we'll talk. So I'm going to leave it to Tim.
Hey guys, I'm working on a 98 Jeep Cherokee XJ 4-liter and replacing this leaking block heater with a freeze plug. Where we live, block heater isn't necessary. It does snow in the winter, but it doesn't get obscenely cold. This engine is out of a Wrangler that came from Canada, and I believe this is factory equipped, and it failed. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but there's actually holes underneath the coil that I can see straight through, so that's why it was leaking. I'm not sure how they developed. Anyways, I'm going to be showing you how to replace it and how to extract your old ones. Something that helps me when I'm working on a vehicle like this, disassembling everything, is just to take the time to write, what things are. Here's a couple bolts, real simply, fuel rail, 10mm. I've got a whole pile of Ziploc bags with it written, what the size and what they're for. Saves a lot of time reassembling everything. Alright, so after you disassemble the exhaust manifold, header, and intake manifold, and this whole side of the engine, your power steering reservoir, and all that, the only tools you're going to need to get the freeze plugs out, or block heater, whatever you may have, will be a dull chisel or small screwdriver, and a hammer, and the channel locks. And that's about it. But you might also need a block of wood. This little pry bar was pretty handy. Some vice grips. This screwdriver. A lot of patience and a lot of coffee. But realistically, all you should need: channel locks, a dull chisel, and a good ball peen hammer. Alright, so I'll zoom up here in the next shot, but basically what you want to do is take your dull chisel and pound the bottom of the freeze plug so that it pivots like this, and then you can come in here with your channel locks, grab the top, and oh, that one fell inside the block, so that's not good. Not a good example. But you should be able to grab your what you can of your freeze plug here and pull it right out just like that. So this is probably a factory freeze plug. You can see the inside is beautiful, and this is a steel plug, not brass, so you can actually see, even though there's antifreeze in here, it looks like rust is forming. So eventually this one would fail also, just like the block heater did. So I'll be replacing all these with brass plugs, and I actually drove an extra 20 miles or so and paid 3 times more for made in the USA brass plugs, which I highly recommend you do the same, because the cheap 79-cent Chinese plugs made out of steel, if they're even steel, they will rust and they will fail. So save yourself the headache after you pull this whole side of the engine, the intake manifold, the exhaust manifold, everything else, drain your radiator, drain your block, cuss and moan and lose sleep over it. Why would you put in something cheap and made in China? Find some American-made brass plugs. Dormant makes them. I can have a part number for you later. Alright, so if everything goes according to plan, which it probably won't, you're just going to take your dull chisel. That's important. You want a dull chisel so you don't rip right through this. Put it on the bottom. I prefer a wider chisel. And hammer it pretty good right there. That should cause your freeze plug to rock out where the top folds out, and then you can get it with your channel locks or vice grip or whatever. Well, that's okay. You want to try to avoid dumping them into your block in case you can't get them, but generally they're not going to go very far. They can't drop below this point here. So if it does go in, you can usually fish it out to one of the holes. But ideally it'll just rock out. You can grab the top, but in this case this is the second one that's gone inside the block, and I haven't had a problem getting out the other one. So after it's like that, you should be able to get your channel lock on there. Just to rip it out. By the way, there are 7 freeze plugs total on a 4-liter engine. There's 5 right here on the driver's side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 1 on the back of the head, and then there's 1 more kind of near the flywheel area on the back of the engine. That one cannot be serviced without pulling the engine or dropping the transmission. The one on the head can be replaced if you pull the head. So fortunately, in most cases, the ones on the back tend not to leak. If you have dripping coolant coming from the back of the engine and you're pretty sure it is a freeze plug, try to diagnose it the best you can. Just feel back there with your hand, make sure it's not wet, because you don't want to do all this, pull all this stuff to go replace these and have it be one of the other ones. If it's the one on the back of the block, you will have to pull the engine. These are accessible. There are some freeze plug tools that I'm not familiar with. I've never used them. Some guys on some Jeep forums, etc. online were saying that you don't have to pull any of the manifolds to access these. That sounds amazing. Too good to be true almost. So every time I've done this, I've always pulled this whole side of the engine bay, which really isn't long. It takes, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours tops. If you're labeling everything in bags and taking pictures and video, it really doesn't take that long. So I've always had to pull this to get to these freeze plugs. But these 5 are the only ones that you can service without pulling the head or pulling the engine. I should probably clarify, earlier I said put the chisel on the bottom, specifically inside the cup of the freeze plug. Not on the bottom of the block. Hopefully you can see that okay. You don't want to put it here and try to pound. You want to get it inside the cup, but in the bottom of the lip. If you get it here, you're going to dig that chisel into the actual block itself and you might form a leak. But specifically right there on the bottom is where you want to be. That's your ideal spot. Alright, here are the Dormant plugs I was talking about. Dormant freeze plugs. Made by Dormant. Model number, part number 565-069. They're $2.99 a piece. Big deal. You know, 15 bucks for all of them, for 5 of them. Versus 78 cents for Chinese pot steel. So, probably worth it. I was reading online too about some old hot rod guys putting these in the freezer for a couple hours before installing them. Apparently it actually shrinks them enough. So it was the first thing I did. I put all of them in the freezer. And I'm also going to be using some shellac. It's, I have no idea, some kind of gasket shellac. It's a real small brown bottle. It has a lion's head on it. I'll probably show it to you when I go to install these. I don't know how the frozen freeze plug will interact with the shellac. I'm not planning on using much. Just enough to seal any slight imperfections that pulling the old ones out may have created in the block or anything. Here's that gasket shellac that I was mentioning. I was pretty close in my description. It's made by VersaChem Lion Gasket Shellac, made in the USA. This is going to be my cleanup tool of choice for cleaning the ports where the freeze plugs go. This is some Gorilla Pad, Scotch-Brite It's like a Scotch-Brite pad. Your green kitchen one might work. They make them in different colors for different roughness, different texture. I think the red is pretty coarse. This should be a little bit easier than sandpaper. You're going to want to feel inside the hole, make sure there's nothing resisting, no abrasions or anything, make sure no grit buildup, anything like that. The Scotch-Brite works pretty well. So about 30 seconds per hole with the Scotch-Brite and it's perfectly smooth. Alright, so just have a little bit of shellac on the outside of the freeze plug here. Some people suggested coating the whole backside. I don't see any point to that at all. I'm just going to put a little bit where it's going to seal. This will also help you fit it in place. You can push it in a little bit and it should stay. That'll give you enough time to grab your socket and hammer. Ideally, a larger socket that fits snug into the walls would be good. But I'm working with what I have, not what I wish I had. So it's the biggest socket I have, and so far it's been working pretty good. Try to keep this, as you do this, try to keep it straight. If it ends up getting sideways, it's okay. Just work it flat with the socket the best you can. And just seat these flush. Don't worry about getting them sunk in or anything. Okay, on this particular freeze plug, the engine mount was in the way. This one over here went a lot smoother. Once it's flush with the block, grab a paper towel or something or your finger and just wipe that shellac smooth. Try to hide it the way it's not ugly. Or you can just leave it, it won't matter.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you do subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out the Facebook page, and check out the website, BleepinJeep.com, where we've got hats, t-shirts, muffler bearings, flux capacitors. We've got discount coupon codes, lots of how-to videos, and other great stuff for you there as well, BleepinJeep.com. Leave your comments and questions below, and we'll see you next time.